discussions that. Oh, okay. It's somebody hit record.
Sorry,
we're very.
just hit record. Yep.
Yeah. No worries.
Because I wanted to capture what you're saying. Sorry.
Sure. So, on behalf of the board, we're so pleased with the progress that the Fellows program is making, and with the energy that's behind it, and one of the troubling things that occurred over the past couple of months is that the Fellows program was not given perhaps the kind of featured position that really that I think is really important to showcase in the upcoming conference. Well, what I wanted to do was to reach out to the fellows and really do two things. First of all, just essentially check in and see how everybody's going, and see if there's anything that we can do to ensure that the fellows are well positioned at the conference, and that we can all collectively learn from what you've been learning about over the past year. So that's the first thing. The second thing is to also ask for a bit of, not necessarily ask for help, but obviously with the events of the past couple of months, and with two resignations on our executive committee, a lot of us are just sort of haphazardly picking up the pieces and trying to put Detroit together as best as we can. And the good news is, I think we're doing a fairly good job given the circumstances of trying to get this thing moving forward and just trying to get things right so that we have a really great experience in Detroit. But what I also wanted to do was involve the fellows in any way that I can in planning efforts. And one thing that we're trying to do is we're really trying to make a big push for membership, because even more than one of the big advantages of holding a conference in Detroit, in a larger city, is that even though it is an expensive venue, and we recognize that fully, one of the big opportunities here was to reach out to other groups that wouldn't normally be part of our conference and really try to get them involved as best as we can. And this is something that I wanted to reach out to the fellows to discuss, because this touches on many of the findings that you are experiencing right now and that you're discovering. And I wanted to first of all ask for your counsel on how we could best do this, and also see if there's any way to get the fellows involved in this push and moving this forward.
Yeah, that's good. So Michael, so the fellows are made up of, this is probably, you know all this, but of representatives of different kind of project groups that we're working on. One that could be important in terms of that membership push or outreach is the International Society of Quality of Life Studies, or ISQALS, and they will be on the call a little bit later. Another group that's convening is Sharon Gulick, and I think Connie Loden should be on the call again, hopefully soon. But that group is working with foundations, and so their initiative is really to help better understand what are the needs of foundations in terms of community development change processes, what indicators do they use, and what types of research or follow-up might CDS or members of CDS do to pursue whatever needs or goals those foundations have. And so they are currently, I believe, working on developing some type of a facilitated conversation with a group of foundation groups. The others include a student outreach group, and I'm speaking for those that aren't here yet, and they actually are, I think, struggling a little bit also with getting some membership, although it has resulted in a few new members. And that's an avenue that we could also then pursue. And then there are two other groups, and they are here and represented. So I'll be quiet and let you guys talk a little bit about your efforts and if and how it might relate to getting more membership to our conference. Jim, do you want to start?
Yeah, in addition to what Dan has said, we've got two small sort of discussion groups. One is around particular topics in community development. So we're looking at an international discussion group on community development in an age of polarization. And the second one is just a reflective learning group from people from different countries talking about their community development experience. So both of those groups, again, we put out a message to a range of people and we only get a handful, but at least we've had some good discussions with those handful of participants. But together with Gary Gorham, he works with the students group and he also has an educators group. And then there's the reflective learning group and the polarization group.
Excellent. Okay. All right. All very important topics. Do you think there's a way that one of the ideas that we had, and we think this is a fairly reasonable one, is that really in the next couple of days here, we want to send out a message to the membership, inviting people to bring a new member with them. And our goal, and it's a bit outlandish, but I mean, we're going to try, because again, I'm going to try to stress that people try to reach out to groups that don't normally come to this kinds of conferences, and we're still ahead of the early bird deadline. One of the things that we wanted to do was offer some sort of concession for people that did that, and I think we actually had a structure last year for that exact same kind of thing. So we actually had I think it was either a reduction on the rate you pay for membership or was something like that, but you basically get free goodies, and we're also going to get some special limited edition tchotchkes, for lack of a better term, for people that brought a new member this year. And we just want it to be a little bit more targeted towards going out to groups that we think would be high impact groups and would really benefit from being in Detroit this year. So, obviously, we want to see if like half of our membership can bring a new member, which would increase our membership by 50%. That's a pretty steep goal. I have my own doubts about making that, but let's shoot for the moon here and see what happens. Because even if we get a 20% bump in membership, this will actually change, I think, fundamentally change the dynamics of our organization, especially if these groups are representing people from urban backgrounds, people from marginalized communities, people from an international context, people that are coming to the conference from a non-academic space, or that are coming from other fields that utilize community development a lot, like education, healthcare, law, and several others. So, I mean, there might be some overlap here, and essentially, this is what I'm thinking of. How could we potentially would it be possible to ask the in that regard, if we package, is there a way for the fellows to help push it out, or is there a way to get the fellows involved in building excitement? And maybe we could talk about the fellows who discover, actually bring that into our marketing as well.
You're cutting out a little bit, Michael. So I was following. No, it was actually quite good, at least on my end, up until probably maybe the last 30 seconds there. So, which was, I think, your ask of saying, "Hey,
oh, yeah.
here's the idea." But I'm sorry, but yeah, could you say that again?
Sure, of course.
Just
so
that,
what I'm asking of the fellows is that if we are able to package, create a package for people that will be attending the conference. And put out some sort of a membership drive. Is there a way to potentially ask the fellows to help to push out that message? And also, how could we get the core attributes of what the fellows are discovering more fundamentally in our marketing?
Yeah.
Big questions, I know.
Yeah. Well, let me let Virginia introduce herself a little bit and about what your project is. And
sure. Hi, Michael. I'm Virginia. I'm here in Detroit. I'm part of the Detroit Urban Fellows Group, and we represent about I'm from the University of Detroit Mercy, but our Fellows Group represents a group of practitioners and also faculty leaders and folks who are connected to our Master of Community Development program here at Detroit Mercy. So we've been looking at topics of a learning community of community engagement. So we've been convening about 12 practitioners in a series of meetings. We've had 3 meetings already, talking about everything from civic engagement values and principles to, core competencies that are needed when you're leading civic engagement efforts, to tools and strategies that we can share. It's been both a great forum just to discuss, because Detroit is, as you know, a very active development scene right now, but we've also been wanting to document some of our shared values and beliefs. So that's what we're trying to wrap up. In terms of promoting the conference, I think that we as fellows have been doing it in small ways, but we could do a lot more. Many of us sit on the planning committee, though I have to say, I personally haven't been able to take on the conference full force, but there are other ways that we can help promote it more. I've been promoting it with my faculty and students, but we have a community development trade organization that one of our fellows represents, and they can help us push it even more, as well as some of our nonprofit partners. So like I said, we've been doing it some, but we could ramp that up with the encouragement and the need that I'm hearing today.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
That's wonderful, and it's wonderful to have you involved in this conversation as well. I'm really glad that that you've been part of these discussions, representing Detroit and representing the urban side as well. I think that's one area where I think our organization is really turning its eyes towards some of the really incredible community development successes that are happening in urban places.
Yeah, and likewise, we tend here to focus a lot on Detroit and maybe don't look out enough to what's going on nationally and internationally. So the CDS affiliation has been valuable to us here as well. So we'll continue to push that, and I've been trying to get some of my students to take advantage of the scholarship. I'm not sure that any have pulled the trigger and done so. I need to follow up with them.
And I was going to add that I think it's quite okay for us, Michael, to promote the membership idea and, encourage people to come to the conference. I think hand in hand with that, I think we can do that quite easily, but we also have to think about what does the conference add to these folks? What are the things that would really attract them? And there is a lot at the conference that would attract them, but I don't know how they perceive that. I think a lot of really busy people working out there in non-profits and in government and other places would think, oh, gee, 3 days of talking, gee, that's not all that flash. So we might need to work on the supply side and get sort of the word out there and attract people and bring a friend kind of idea. But we also need to work on the demand side and say, these are the really funky things that are going on at the conference. And, we need to work on both ends of it, I think.
Yeah, well, so Michael, I'll say historically, what we do really well is that we talk to ourselves. And by that, I mean that we do a really good job of putting it on the CDS Facebook site, which is mostly CDS members. So, you've got a small base, and you're trying to get all your members there, which is good, but it's not the right place necessarily to do that outreach unless you are following along with that idea of some type of an incentive for recruiting new members, which is what I think you referenced that we did last year. And that has good potential, I think. I've already
Agreed.
registered for the conference, but yeah, so how does that work if I get more people to sign up for the conference?
I will have to go back to what we did last year, but I believe what it does is it gets you a discount. I think it gets both you and the person you bring a discount on membership.
Yeah.
So it's on the so it's not the conference fees would be the same, but the membership fees would go down.
Right.
I'm pretty sure. But we think that's and I forget if it's by $25 or $50 or for whom it goes down. I mean, maybe one's 25 and one's 50, depending on who you bring. But there's a we on our registration form, we do have a way of actually tracking that because of last year. We have a way of very easily tracking, did somebody refer you to this conference and who was it? So that's very good. And I fully concur with Jim's comments. I mean, we do indeed need to work on the demand side here. The great thing is that I think we've got a lot to work with this year because this is and again, I think we could be doing a much better job marketing what actually goes into this conference because the lineup of speakers is fantastic. I mean, these are really relevant on-the-ground folks from across Michigan that are doing phenomenal work in inner cities and rural areas and tribal communities and a variety of other places. We've got, so the speakers are fantastic. The mobile learning workshops are really innovative, creative, and kind of funky. So it's not, as Jim said, it's the 3 days of talking. But I think one of the most important things that we can do is also promote CDS culture. Which, the one piece of feedback I get all the time about the CDS conference is that it's such a nice, comfortable time. There's so much interaction, very uplifting. And I think we need to find a good way of bottling that and getting it out there so that, people can see for themselves what all the hubbub is about. This is CDS. You're not just going to come here and hear 3 days of talking. You're going to make connections for the rest of your life. And that's the kind of thing that I think really sells this conference. But I think all those points are absolutely well taken. Thank you, all of you. My next question would be, what are the next steps, and how can we potentially get something like this rolling?
Go ahead.
Something that would be low-hanging fruit and easy for us is. I've been trying to share CDS Facebook posts about the conference, and I do get emails from CDS that note things like registration now open. If there were a comprehensive email that I could forward to 100 colleagues that briefly described what CDS is and briefly describe the conference, that would be really handy. I can do it. Of course, I can do it as well. But if it's something that came from CDS, it might seem more official. And then I could personalize it to my colleagues. That's something to consider.
Yeah, I agree. I think one of the things we really need to do a better job of is not creating a great thing for community development practitioners. We need to do a better job of telling people about it, and not in a promotion kind of way, but actually exactly your point, Michael. You said, hey, these are all the great things that are happening, but people just don't see it like that. They just see it as a conference, and what the hell is CDS, and all that. So I think we do need a brief statement about what is CDS and what is the conference about. And it's not about here's everything that's happening at the conference. It's exactly what you were saying. Here are some great speakers. Here's the opportunity to really network with your colleagues. Here's an opportunity to connect internationally. Just those 5 or 6 really attractive things about the conference. We need to get that out there. And it needs to be concise. It can't be a huge conference program. It is exactly as Virginia's saying. We just need a way of people sending that out to their networks. We shouldn't just spam people. we need to use our membership to actually use their networks to encourage people to come.
So, I am confident we can produce exactly such a document very quickly, if it doesn't exist already. But yes, I mean, even if I have to write it myself, I think that's a really good idea. Just a little one-sheeter where it's like CDS at a glance and why you can't miss Detroit this year. It's going to be, what a shame if you miss the conference.
yeah, exactly.
Maybe a constant contact, or what is that? The email format that has a little color and a little formatting, picture or two. But I agree. I could see that maybe each of the fellows could take that and forward it on to both to the groups we're working with and others and colleagues, but have an embedded web link so that they can register for the conference, or where to go to get on. I mean, if we can make it as simple as possible, I think that's a great idea.
That would be wonderful. Okay, well that sounds great, and that's easy enough to do, and I can certainly get on that and try to have it out to everybody within 48 hours, if not less. Since time is of the essence here, what we want to do is try to get this out before the early bird deadline closes, so that people that might be dissuaded from coming to the conference at least they have an enticement of getting $50 off of their registration fee. Plus, if they bring a new member, they get an additional discount on their. So, bring the cost down quite considerably for everything.
I think that's a great idea. We've also been joined by Connie Loden. Connie, can you hear us?
I can. I'm sorry I'm late.
I'm glad you could join us. So Michael Fortunato is on the call, and we were actually just talking about some of the ways that the fellows might be able to expand our networks and invite more membership into CDS and along to the conference.
All right, good.
Has your project been able to get a strong network of foundations, and would they be interested in some kind of we touched on this as an idea at one point, but is there a membership available for a foundation or a professional partner organization or something that would benefit them?
I think any of the foundations would benefit from membership, so that's something that definitely would suggest and recommend to them. We're just kind of in the process of opening up the dialogue with the community foundations currently, so I'm sure that will be part of our conversation.
You didn't lead with, hey, do you want to join CDS?
Well, I have a little bit. Some of them that I've been working with already. But.
Hi, I'm Connie. Want to join CDS? Yeah.
No, I did that with Thrivent.
Hey, did they join?
I don't think they have yet.
I've been working with Thrivent. I can also push on. I mean, not at the national level, but at a local level. And
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think their national headquarters are Minneapolis. So, but they connect to their other people. So.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, this all sounds fantastic, and I don't want to take up any more of the fellows' time today, because I know this is a bit of a big ask and it's a little bit complicated, but I wanted to thank you all very personally and very genuinely for hearing out these requests and for agreeing to push out some of these materials, and just also for your advice and your counsel. It's my personal belief that this fellows program was charged with the task of being able to guide the future actions of the organization, and I think that's something that we can start. That's something we can start taking seriously right away by saying, by reaching out to you more often and more fundamentally, and saying, hey, what advice do you have to offer us about how to make this organization the best community development organization in the world? Because we want to be nothing less than that. So obviously, and and so I thank you all very, very much. And what I'll do, if it's all right with you, I mean, I can certainly hang on the call a little bit longer if you'd like. But if I will start working with the executive committee and the conference planning committee just to get their approval to get a good one pager, a kind of a short, crisp email about why CDS matters, why you want to join, and why you can't miss this year's conference because it's going to be great. And I'll get that out to you, and it'll probably come out via constant contact through our standard mechanism, but then I'll give a short follow-up to your committee, to all the fellows, just mentioning that this is the email that can be forwarded to the groups that you're working with and that you're doing such excellent outreach with, if that's all right.
Yeah. And Michael, there probably are some documents that are similar to that about why to join CDS that were in membership committees kind of purview for a while. So they might be easy to just adapt or steal language from or whatever.
I completely, it has to exist. I mean, there's, I was just thinking that, I think this document is actually already out there and just needs to be adapted for this year's conference. But absolutely, yeah. If I'll look through the databases, and if we've got it, then I'll take it. I'll take the copy and I'll adapt it to what we're doing here. And that'll ensure that we're capturing the words of, capturing the good work that was done already on solidifying the mission of the organization and the current efforts.
Michael,
yeah, go ahead.
Michael, I have a logistical question. If in terms of membership, if organizations decide to join as an organizational membership, can individuals attend the conference through that membership, or do they need individual memberships?
I'm almost certain that that the organizational membership gives everyone access to the conference. I'll check with Cindy and Eric about that just to be 100% sure. But I'm almost 100% certain that is part of the big benefit of getting an organizational membership, is that Now, here's the thing. I think the organizational membership covers the membership fee for everyone. I don't think it actually covers the conference fee.
That's right.
So,
right.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure you still have to pay for the conference, but you wouldn't pay that additional amount for the membership. That's covered under your organization.
Okay. Well, that's useful to know. Okay.
Yeah, that's
sure.
right.
And that's a chunk. I mean, that's $165 that you don't have to pay. So that's a pretty big deal.
Right.
We just joined as an institutional member at the University of Kentucky, and I'm trying to remember, but I don't think it included like 1 to 2 representatives at an annual conference. I think it's basically just their membership, which means that you get an electronic version of the CD practice or the CD journal. You get the CD practice, you get the Vanguard. You have member privileges, but you don't get the conference. So.
Well, and nobody really gets the conference with their membership. It's only if you pay when you register for the conference that you kind of put it all into one. So, yeah, it's my understanding too is organizational membership, you can come to the conference as a member just like other memberships.
Right. Which is good.
Yeah, that's a pretty good deal too, because if you're, from an individual perspective, if you get the early bird discount, your membership is comped. You get the early bird discount. That means you go to the conference for about $250. I mean, that's a pretty good deal for a 3-day conference. Plus you also get the journal and you get all the other perks of CDS membership. So it's a good deal.
It is. Yeah. So I actually, Michael, I'm glad you're on, and I hope you'll stay on a little bit. I will say Michael was one of the folks that wrote a letter of support for the Fellows Initiative to the CDS board, and so I appreciate your support from the start. Some of the things you were saying seemed like very high praise, but we'll take it. No, I don't know that I don't know we're going to change the culture of CDS, but we are doing some interesting work, and I hope it supports each of our individual projects as well as the overall kind of well-being and recognition of and membership of CDS. That's been an underlying theme throughout. So,
hey, it's a start, and even a start is a good thing. If we can see this flourish over time. But I do indeed appreciate the work that everybody has been doing, and I really believed in the program from the get-go. I think it's wonderful to have. It's wonderful to have a group of committed scholars and practitioners that are out there on the ground, taking the temperature of what's actually going on to keep our organization maximally relevant. That's very, very. It's an extremely important function, I think.
It did have, as you say, several teams that throughout the year have been making ongoing efforts of reaching out and talking with folks about CDS, and so that in and of itself is a good perk. But hey, let me also say I was on the marketing and membership committee. We redid that membership brochure about 2 years ago, I'm thinking. My computer crashed. I know I don't have an electronic version of it. I know that we kept it with CDS main office, which at the time was the association offices, which was something that I don't know if we have those files anymore. Cindy Bonnier, though, was on that committee, and so she may have a copy of our basically it was like a little threefold brochure. And back in the day, we had a hard time figuring out how to, share that and then print it and then hand them out. But it would be nice if we had them now electronically available and we could forward that around and use it as a promotional tool. I think you're right, though. It would need to be updated a little bit about this current conference. So, but it should be out there, Michael.
That's super. Thanks, Dan.
So let's talk a little bit, just fellows, we're also, actually, Michael, let me ask one more thing, and that'll launch us into this next piece. We have a little bit of time on Monday morning of the conference. Is that schedule printed and shared?
Oh boy. I want to say yes.
Okay.
I can't say whether it's final or not, though. That's the thing. Let me look into that and just be sure. And I'll look into that. I'll also verify about the organizational memberships just to be 100% sure. But I mean yeah. I think we have a tentative schedule, and I don't know when it's scheduled to become permanent or what changes are going to occur. But yeah, there should be spots for the fellows in there.
I'm pretty sure it is. We've discussed it on our call about maybe some ways to approach that. It's been a month or so since, it's been a good month since I think we've talked last. And so I'm going to ask the folks here on the line, are there any ideas, approaches, changes in terms of how we want to best represent ourselves?
So just remind us, Dan, what we've got planned at the conference already.
I was afraid you were going to say that. I was afraid you were going to say that. Yeah, I'm going to have to. So I have to admit, I mean, I can find it. It's going to take a little bit of work.
But I think we had a slot, didn't we? We had a spot.
We do. I think we've got an hour.
I think, and it's a plenary spot, is my understanding, is it not?
It is. It's in the morning on Monday morning. Since our last call, I was on the phone with our accounting, and my computer said, "Hey, you have a Windows update," and I said, "Yeah, sure." You should never update your computer while you're on the phone. And so it ran through this little process, and it shut down and rebooted, and it says you need to update. You want to? And I said yes, and so it did it again, and then it rebooted again, and I was still stuck in the update. So I went and got my IT person, and they came in and they hit skip. It rebooted, and it rebooted. I run Windows 10. It rebooted Windows 8 and took everything. It didn't pick anything up. It's all gone. So. Yeah, so I lost all of my fellows folders, so I'm playing catch up a little bit, but so we've also had a new person join us. Let's go there. Who's just joined us on 1593 phone number?
That's me. This is Rhonda Phillips from Purdue.
Rhonda.
And sorry for the delay. We just finished our other meeting, and so I was racing to try to dial in.
I'm glad you did.
Yeah, glad to be here. I just wanted to share just a quick update, which is we're going to have a webinar on June 1st, and it's at 12 noon Eastern time, so it'd be 11 a.m. for Central. And it's the combined Community Development Society and ISQUAL's International Society for Quality of Life Studies webinar. And so this is going to be our working group that we've, from our grant to pull together ideas across the two groups. And so really hope you can take some time to join. If you can't stay for the whole thing, just if you could even log on for a little bit, that would help all of us so much, just to have a nice discussion and push forward on what we've done.
I'm glad you brought that up. Michael and Jim, did you guys get notice through the board of that? I had asked for it to be shared with the CDS board, but I didn't know if that loop got, if that connection got made.
Yeah, I can't recall. I'll have to check.
Okay. It should.
Me neither. I can't recall either, honestly.
Should have been
but
in the last
I'll
week.
double check. But I don't think it was. I'm not sure about that. Let me check to be sure.
Okay.
Well, I'm a CDS member, and I didn't get anything about it, so I don't think it went out from the CDS side, which is really kind of disappointing. I know it went out for ISQUAL, went out to all ISQUAL's members a while ago, and then a refresher came out again. So they've been alerted, but I don't see anything from CDS about it at all. I was hoping it would get sent out, sort of as an update to the membership or something somewhere.
Who the point person was in sending that out?
Yeah,
Well,
I sent it to Cindy. Craig sent it to me.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm not sure. Let me see here.
But I also, yeah. So I can forward that to you, Michael. It would be great to go to the board. It would be great to go to the broader membership. I did put it on the CDS Facebook page, but I think as of last look, it had 6 likes or something like that. So hopefully we could get it broader than that.
Yeah, I think we definitely need to follow up on that because I don't recall receiving it.
Okay. I mean, I could send it out to the board, but I didn't have a current board list. So, yeah, how do you want to do that?
Well, honestly, if we're trying to get a lot of people involved, I mean, are we just trying to let the board know about this or the membership?
Well, membership would be even better. I mean, the board is important.
If you send it to Cindy and I, we can get that onto Constant Contact pretty quickly. I mean, I could just turn around and send it out to everyone, make it look nice. But
awesome. I'll resend it.
Yeah, that might be the best way to go.
Okay. I'll resend that. And then we can. It wasn't long ago. I mean, it's not that somebody's sitting on it. It took a while for Craig. I think no, it took a while for me to get it to Cindy, and I had posted it. I'm not sure how long ago it was on the CDS website, but I'll send it again, and that way we can. Here we go. So, Michael, what's your email?
My email is Michael at creative. It's just Michael at Creative Insight CD. That's all one word. CreativeInsightCD.com.
Do you still get email at Hey Fortunato?
Oh, yes. If you have that, that'll be fine. It all goes to the same place.
Okay. It is on its way. So good. Rhonda, thank
Great.
you for bringing that up. That was good.
No problem.
You know, communication is always a challenge, and sometimes you feel like you get the message out and no one hears it or sees it. And so it's always good to double check the systems to see if the messages are actually making their mark. So, so Jim, I'll go back through emails because you had actually had written it down and sent kind of a template. Basically, I think it was a quick overview of what the Fellows was about, and then to highlight each of our program teams. And it was a short discussion, I think, with a group of what have we learned. Does that sound right?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was basically, this is what it's about. This is what we've done, an overview.
Yeah.
And then it was sort of a reflection on what have we learned as a result of that experience. And then I from memory, I think the next step was, well, what is the future of the Fellows? You know, what do people feel is the best way for it to progress?
Yeah.
That was it in a nutshell, really.
And I think that was it. And so what we can do, and then also as a part of that, what we were hoping to do is make sure that everybody that was with the Fellows on a project team could invite others in. And Rhonda, you have a one of the workshops, is that right? I think that's right. And then there were a couple of roundtables or discussion groups also that some of our Fellows had set up. And I want to make sure that those are available so that members can go and explore and talk a little bit more about each of these individual projects that we were working on. So, and Jim, do you you guys have a time or a discussion group?
I don't know that we've organised one within the Fellows hour, but we would have enough people there to join one if we were to establish one within that time slot.
No, what I meant was, so in an hour we go through that conversation of who are we, what have we done, what have we learned, what are the futures, and then that's it. But before leaving, saying, by the way, you need to see Connie Loden because she's talking about, working with and Jim.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And channel them to either the workshop or the discussion group or whatever time or
sure. Yeah.
framework that is.
Yeah.
Dan, I found your notes on that at the conference.
You are so
and I sent it to you. It's the PowerPoint from the last meeting.
Yes.
And it says AM plenary on Monday, representing the Fellows, all stand and be recognized, but with team leaders, each team choosing a representative to speak, with the discussion being short overview of the Fellows program, 12 minutes. Key learnings, highlights from across the whole program is the second bullet. Third bullet is discussion possibly with some key prompt questions. And fourth, discussion of suggestions for the next steps in the CD Fellows program.
That's good.
And I forwarded it to everybody, so.
Okay. And I think what I promised to do was to take that and flesh out a little bit of either a script or an opportunity so we could all see it and say, oh yeah, I can speak there or I can talk to that. So I will do that. But this is very much an open and shared process. So if folks think, oh, can I talk about this, or can I have a moment to share more about this, or whatever your thoughts are, let's talk about that and incorporate it. One of the things I think may be important for us on our next call is actually just to have a discussion about what is it that we have learned. I mean, as we've progressed through this process, we've jotted notes, we've made blogs, we've had some different publishings that are kind of summarizing some of our meetings, but I think it would actually be good to have kind of a facilitated conversation where we jot down these things and capture these notes of kind of as we've progressed through topic by topic, what are some of the key takeaways that we want to highlight. So if that's acceptable, I think that'll be our next conference call agenda the end of June before our July conference.
Right.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Does that sound good?
That's really good. I mean, I like the idea of sort of reflecting back and making sure, we both sort of got out of it what we all sort of wanted to going into it, but even more than that, some reflection on what we could do going forward to continue our work.
Good.
I think before the conference too, Dan, because we're going to be discussing next steps and if we thought this was valuable to go forward, is there a possibility for CDS to continue this financially going forward, or do we need to be talking about other avenues to continue a fellows program? I mean, just that basic information before the conference, before we get on stage, would be helpful to know. Is this a possibility if we all think that it was valuable to have the small grants funding going forward for other groups?
So, Jim, in the format that we were discussing, it's an open forum conversation saying what is the future of the fellows with the CDS conference goers. Is there and Virginia was just saying that'd be nice to have at least a direction or a better indication before we just ask the group. What are your thoughts?
It's a chicken and egg situation, because if we went to the board and said, well, hey guys, what are you thinking about the fellows program and where do you think it should go and what funding might be available, the board will immediately say, well, what do the fellows want to do? Mm-hmm. But I agree with the idea, Virginia, of sort of getting a heads up about what's possible first. So it's about alignment. We can definitely have a discussion at the board about what are they thinking about the future of the fellows program, and that provides a bit of a boundary around what we can talk about at the fellows meeting. But I'm pretty sure that the board will basically say, listen, this is driven from the ground up, so you tell us what you want to do and we'll definitely try and help you make it happen.
Okay.
Within the bounds of funding, of course.
Sure.
And I think that's a good conversation for us to have as well. And so in order to do that, do we meet with the board or do we have a conversation with the board before the conference?
We definitely can. What I can do is simply raise it at the next board meeting and get a sense of what they're thinking. But they're not going to be prescriptive about it at all. But we might have some indication from them about funding that might help us just in that regard.
Which is helpful.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to follow through on that.
Your next meeting is the one just immediately prior to the board? Prior to the conference?
That's right, exactly.
Yeah. So, okay.
There is a doodle poll going around for possible hookup before that, so I'll just have to check what's happening there, but there might well be a Zoom link beforehand.
Okay. So there's another big piece to this, and it's a little bit uncertain. I think also we need to check again with the board, and so I'm hoping Michael's still on and listening in. And
I'm here.
Yay, good. And that is that Craig Talmadge had suggested that we might be able to do a CD practice to try to capture and report out some of these the learnings from our fellows project. I know Craig isn't on the board right now and may not be the manager of CD Practice anymore. I'm guessing, I don't know. Is there somebody that's overseeing that differently? Do we need to make any arrangements or have some kind of more formal contract to make sure that that's a doable thing?
I'm fairly certain that we are currently seeking someone new to manage CD Practice and to serve as the editor. Craig is no longer going to be serving us in that capacity, and I don't know if we have identified anybody. I think it's just kind of open at the moment. But the idea is to get somebody in there as quickly as possible, and that's probably business that we'll try to. That's probably something that we'll try to line up when we're actually in Detroit. To recruit somebody new to actually take on that position. At least that's my understanding right now.
That's fine. Are we safe continuing to at least develop our articles that might be put in that CD Practice or a?
Yes. I think somebody is actually somebody is serving as an interim editor, and I'm not sure if Craig agreed to put out one more issue, prior to the turnover. I'm not really sure, but I can check into that though.
Okay, that would be great. I thought he had made some reference to that, but I didn't know how that all stood. So, okay,
let me take a look.
Connie. Yeah,
I've had CD Practices published before, and I just think let's put one together. And
I think so too.
I mean, even if there's not someone in charge of it at the time, we could get a small little peer group, and it doesn't get reviewed in the same way that a journal article does. It's more it's less strict in that regard. I mean, it doesn't follow some of that same journal requirements. It's more a how-to type of article.
Well, so that was actually a direction I was hoping to go with our conversation, and that is to ask the question of if we were to start drafting or to start putting together articles, can we do that for our teams, for each of our project groups? That was one of the, either to blog or to write about it was one of the hopes for each of these project teams. And I'm wondering what questions you have, if we should just pull up the template of what CD Practice, I think, was there's a word limit. What do you need for us to get moving forward on?
Sure. I like what Connie said, is having, even if it's just a short informational article in CD Practice, that would be really helpful. And it also would be a bit of a compendium of the first cycle projects to see what we learned and how we can share with others. We've done a couple blogs, but I also really like the idea of sort of trying to summarize what the project was about and what some of the anticipated outcomes will be in the future from it, and having all of those projects, just even if it's just a summary, so other members in CDF can get excited about some of these things and then hopefully propose something maybe in the future that they could do.
Rhonda, what would help facilitate that? Either an information or a process for us.
Sure. I would think let's set a due date and a deadline. Let's keep it simple, like if it's a 2-page summary, whatever it may be, 3-page, I don't know, but something simple that we can do and can meet a deadline, and that we can put it all together, and hopefully you can go out and CD Practice as sort of a bit of maybe a compendium, a summary of the whole grant cycle and projects.
That is helpful. Anybody else want to chime in? Because Rhonda just prompted an idea for me. and I'll propose it. See what you guys think. So if we were to, could we by the conference have a 2-page draft, not publishable necessarily, but a summary of what our projects are and what kind of key learnings? And I say that in that we can share it with each other, but it also is kind of a guide or a script or a way of reflecting on or thinking through kind of some of the key points that we want to make at the conference.
That sounds doable.
Yeah, that's doable.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Yeah. So when shall we have that due? I feel like the teacher now.
Is what, July 22nd? Is that right? Let me go to my calendar and take a quick peek. Okay, it starts on the 22nd. So I would say, what if we had them together maybe by July, what do we want to say, 10th, 12th? And if we had them all put together, at least electronically, we could possibly share that at least with each other if we're not ready to print it out and share it with others or to post it electronically somewhere.
Right.
We'd at least have together, enough to see what we're all looking at when we meet and go out to talk to our hopefully large crowds at CDS.
Massive crowds, yes. Is it, and so that works. So that's one option. We have our next Zoom meeting on June 25th. Is that too soon to have a draft to talk with each other about? Okay.
It would be too soon because I'm in the middle of ISQUALS in Hong Kong, and I wouldn't be able to do anything for our team, but other teams could do something maybe.
What do you guys think? Is that too soon? By June 25th? Instead, we would share it electronically before. Rhonda, what was your suggestion before the?
Well, I was saying give us, if we could do at least a week or so before the conference, we could at least put it together electronically, maybe have something ready to hand out or to share with others. I had said maybe somewhere that week of July 9th, somewhere in there that we could have something that would give us a week before the conference
Right.
to pull it together.
Thoughts from others?
I think a week might, Rhonda, that may be pushing it. We may want to make it a little bit earlier, like July 1st or something. Dan, Detroit could do June 25th, but our last activity is June 17th. We'll be, so we'll need to kind of see what comes from that.
Right.
But we could probably make that happen, but maybe there's a compromise between June 25th and July 12th. But we can work with what.
Connie, what were you thinking?
Maybe around July 1st? Or right after the 4th?
Right.
Yeah, I would say after the 4th. I'm not
Say
even
the Monday after the 4th week?
Yeah, the week of the 9th. That's after the 4th. So maybe
Yeah.
have it all done that week, and give us the style. I mean, do we need to do it APA or whatever style you prefer, and the links, and we could. I mean, I don't think it'd be that hard to just compile it electronically. Just take everyone's summary and put in something on the beginning about what it's all about and why we did this. Or
right. Yeah, I think that could be quite good. So let me get the CD practice kind of criteria or framework of how many words or what they're looking for. And I was thinking that it wouldn't have to be as formal, but at least that we would have our summaries ready to go by the conference, so that we could tweak, edit, share them, talk about them, and then maybe try to put something together by closer to the end of July. I'm actually out of I'm on vacation from July 1 through July 14, so I won't be facilitating that sharing, but it would be good if we could have something. Do you want a location, a Google Docs place or somewhere where we all share this, or do we want to just email them to each other? With 5 teams, there are only 5, but
Google Docs might be good.
somebody the other day was saying, though, when you post on Google Docs, it becomes the content or the possession of Google Docs, of Google. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that I'm not wedded to that. So if you want to just send an email, that's fine too.
I think the file itself becomes the possession of Google, but not the intellectual property.
We could argue that. All right.
If you want to be extra careful, then I understand. So,
not that our drafts are going to be, high level documents, and Google is going to be like waiting. Yes, post.
Yes, post.
But okay. So what I'm saying is, between July 1 and July 14, I won't be able to facilitate that. Is there anybody that wants to be the convener of? I mean, I can set up a document online. I just won't have a chance to look at them. It's fine. That's not a big deal. So yeah.
Maximum bandwidth already.
Yeah.
I think because if we follow the same format and we're whatever it is, 2 pages each, I think it really won't be that difficult to, if we're using Google Doc, just to insert our part of it, and then it would just be putting the intro on the top of it, and we could do that certainly after the 14th. I mean, just as long as we get it done by the 22nd, right? I mean, that shouldn't be that hard, I wouldn't think.
Yeah, and in this case, we don't even have to have it completely and ready, formatted for CD practice by the 22nd. I was thinking that it would be good for us to put together those 2-page summary documents of kind of key points of what it is that we wanted to talk about. If it is indeed ready to be published, or at least in a more final draft, that's great, because we're ahead of the game. And then maybe in August we can pull it together and polish it up and have it ready to go. So let's do our best. Yeah, I think it sounds like a plan.
Okay, that sounds great.
It's good to have it on a timeline. I'll get in touch with Craig and or look online and see if I can't pull down the CD practice for submitting an article, what those guidelines are, and I will share those. What else, guys? What else are some pressing topics or issues that you'd like to speak to? Are there other questions that are burning questions?
I really just wanted, if we could maybe recap, and I'm sorry if I missed this because I missed the first 30 minutes. Just at the conference itself, we have a session for all of us to speak, and how many minutes do we each speak, and and I have a related kind of session, but how is that going to sort of play out at the conference?
Well, we were addressing that. Yeah, so I believe we've got an hour on June 1st, maybe 90 minutes. I'll have to look at the schedule. But within that framework, what we were going to do is kind of a quick overview of what the fellows are and what we set out to do. A few minutes of giving each of the teams an opportunity to speak to the highlights of what they've learned or what kind of progress they've been able to make. And then maybe an overall, and Jim I don't know if this is a facilitated conversation or just maybe some key questions. I think we mentioned about what we've learned. What are some of the key takeaways from this process?
Yeah. I think the general discussion will need to have some facilitation, but between all of us, we'll be able to manage that. And we may need some prompt questions. The issue might be that we're explaining all about what's gone on in the Fellows program, and then, okay, guys, any questions? And you just hear crickets, you know. So we might have to have some prompt questions to just stimulate a bit of discussion.
And then, Rhonda, I think that's a good idea, Jim. And then the final kind of guiding conversation is what the future of the Fellows might look like.
Okay. And what day is that? Because I think you said June or something. I just didn't hear.
No, I may have misspoke. It's on the Monday of the conference.
Monday. Okay, so that's like the 23rd. Okay, July 23rd.
Of July.
Okay.
Yes.
Great.
July 23rd.
And do you have a time yet, or it will be, I guess, in the schedule somewhere?
Yeah, I'm going to be verifying the schedule with the board to just see where it stands and how permanent because I think we've got a schedule that is, I think it's still not scheduled, but it's pretty darn close to being finished. So I'm going to be checking in with everybody just to make sure that, just to verify what time, what day, and for how long.
Sure.
And I can send fellows.
Don't we usually have workshops on Monday, or is it Monday afternoon? I can't remember when we do our workshops. Like, not workshops, mobile workshops, mobile tours.
Yes.
So
that's. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just wondering just to make sure it doesn't overlap with any of those, because there's some wonderful mobile workshops this time.
Yeah, there's some really good ones. That's going to happen on Monday afternoon. I think the schedule goes thusly. I think there's a board meeting on Saturday. Sunday is going to be pre-conference workshops, and then the kickoff event's going to be Sunday night. Monday morning, there's going to be a full. That's when the plenary type events are going on, including the fellows. And then the afternoon of Monday is going to be the workshops, and then Tuesday is a full day of conference sessions, and then Wednesday everything wraps up at lunchtime.
Okay, that sounds fun.
Essentially following the standard format that we've adopted for the past
Sure.
several years.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, Michael, then would you count what this is as part of the 8 a.m. plenary session?
I am going to find out.
Okay.
So I'm not sure. I don't want to speak. I don't want to speak too soon. I just want to verify with the executive committee and the conference planning committee just to be 100% sure.
Sure.
But I believe so. Yes. I think that is correct.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'll be right back to you as soon as I get an answer.
So that's good. So Virginia, you've got a schedule pulled up?
Yeah, I just pulled it from the CDS website for
And
the
it's
conference.
8 a.m.?
It says 8 a.m. plenary session, keynote on reconnecting communities, bridging racial divides and promoting inclusivity. I don't know if that's something else.
That sounds like something else.
A keynote sounds like something else, right?
Yeah. What happens at 10?
At 10, we're in concurrent sessions. So if this is a concurrent session, we just also need to make sure that the fellows aren't speaking at other, I think some of us also are presenting papers and things.
Right. No, we weren't supposed to be a concurrent session. I think it was a plenary. So we'll make sure that Michael make sure that we're on the agenda.
Yeah, I'm gonna make sure the fellows have a very very visible spot. So I'm just gonna check in, and I'll get back to everybody as soon as I find out what's going on.
Okay. That'll be good.
Okay.
Well, so typically, guys, we have a kind of a facilitated conversation, and today's topic was around the importance of the role of an association or a professional professional association. And I don't have some kind of prepared thoughts or conversation around that, although I know that it aligns with what the ISQUALS and CDS groups have been doing. Rhonda, this is catching you cold because I haven't asked or prepared you for this, but are there some kind of key alignment, areas of alignment that you've seen that you might highlight as kind of indicative of the value of or importance of being a part of a professional affiliation or association?
Sure, absolutely. Well, in terms of like topical areas of interest, the community well-being dimension is something that overlaps community development very highly, and so that's something that I really think will be of interest to both sets of membership, or at least selected members of those groups. So I think that's one thing to sort of highlight, is how we can engage around areas that impact us both our sets of membership. Is that what you were asking, or was it something a little bit different from the perspective of associations themselves?
It was actually a very broad kind of topic, just for conversation of being able to maybe identify or speak to what are some of those benefits or advantages. Of being a member of a professional association, or another way to ask it might be, why is this important?
Oh, absolutely. I meant both for, I'm sorry, I totally misunderstood the question. I thought you were looking at points of intersection, but absolutely, I meant both for, pushing forward scholarship and contributions to knowledge and understanding of our disciplinary areas, whether we're practice, research, or a combination of both. That is critical, it goes without saying. And also the ability to help push forward literature. I mean, we each have journals in our different associations, and that's becoming even more and more critical as sort of the publishing framework of how information is disseminated is changing. I mean, professional associations are, sort of the stewards somewhat of being able to push forward innovations in the field, and both best practices as well as things that are new and emerging research and technologies and tools, et cetera, et cetera. So it sort of goes without saying. And, it struck me the other day, I was in a meeting about learning modalities or some such. And one of the things that kept coming up was this idea of, how do people refresh their skills? How do they learn new skills? If you've been in your career, say, they happen to use an example of someone who's been in a career like 30 years, and what do you do at that point if you can't go back to school, if you can't go full time? Do you try to find an online class, or what do you do? And it was so clear to me, because this was a group of people who do online education, so they were coming in at it from that viewpoint. It was so clear to me that often the way that happens, or the gateway to developing those new perspectives or skill set or research areas, is through our academic and professional associations. I mean, that's exactly where you get it. That's why we go, that's why we convene, trying to learn more and to connect each other and see what we can, do that's more impactful or better, different, progress. And honestly, to me, that's the power, the real power of the professional and academic association. And what I love about both CDS and ISQUALS is that both have practitioners and sort of the academics from the academy. It's very much research and practice, and I think that's even more powerful than having one or the other exclusively.
Yeah. I love what you just said, Rhonda. I mean, all of this. I was also thinking that it's very much, I don't take offense to this, but from an academic perspective and we are an academic society, well-ish, and practitioners. But some of the things you highlighted were scholarship, knowledge and understanding, an opportunity to push literature, with stewards of kind of this realm of information and resources. and and I was thinking about my conversations with Gary and John about getting students involved, and we might get an eye roll from all of that. Because like, yeah, scholarship, knowledge, and understanding, but what's it mean to me as a student? I mean, how else, what are some other ways? Jim, you do international community development stuff. You got a small group of folks that are coming together to talk about things from different countries. What do they find most important about being affiliated or a part of a professional association? Rhonda, I wasn't meaning to be rude. I agree with all your reasons, but I think there are also other audiences that may value other parts differently. So.
Oh, absolutely. No offense taken.
Yeah.
and actually, the whole idea of developing skills, whether you're 30 years in and need to refresh, or if you're a brand new student, where you're going to find a lot of those is your professional association. So I think it appeals to across the whole broad spectrum of people involved in development. But Jim, you speak, and I can, I'll listen.
Well, what I'd say is there's a bit of an irony in this, in that a lot of people in community development practice find themselves isolated internationally, professionally isolated. So they're working away very busily in their own way, in their own country or in their own region, and they often don't have good professional links with others. And you would think that that would make them really interested in connecting with a group like CDS or with some local organisation, but we really struggle to get people to actually engage. And it might well be a combination of too busy to even lift their head up and try and look for some professional links, but also I think there's a judgment being made about what use is it to them. I think we get involved in our professional association because it's a good thing to do and it's sort of giving back to the profession and we gain something ourselves from it. But for a lot of practitioners, we find it very hard to engage with them. And they find CDS, for example, or even IACD as a bit of extracurricular work rather than something that's really critical to their professional role. So it's a challenge for us to sort of make it more accessible, make it more attractive and interesting than it is. And that's something that we really struggle with on the International Committee. There are thousands of community developers around the world, but we only get a handful ever really actively participating in our International Committee. So I'm just outlining the problem, I suppose, but the sort of things we're talking about in terms of the Fellows Program, I think it does help to break down that a fair bit, because we're actually having people address a particular issue, like that discussion on community development in an age of polarisation. That was a popular topic, and there was a lot of good discussion about that. And I'd be keen for us as CDS to develop more position statements and have more discussion of policy and contemporary issues in community development rather than just organisational stuff.
I don't know if I'm on. Can you guys hear me? Yeah, so I think that's a great applied way of engaging folks. I mean, to be a part of that, like you say, a positional statement and or going through a process of consensus or agreement or constructive disagreement. To me, the process is so important also. I was going to ask Connie, and she just logged off. Are you still there, Connie? As a practitioner, oh, you're on mute. But so as a practitioner, I mean, you've hung in here with CDS for a long time. But what's attractive to this association of community development professionals from a practitioner's standpoint? I mean, a professional.
Predominantly looking at ideas that you can apply in your work. So, promising practices, ideas on what other people are doing, gives you ideas on what some of the, prominent processes, practices, it's people, and then people you can bounce things off of when you're trying to design something yourself, or have questions about how to approach different things. So, for instance, in looking at a community change initiative and knowing and going into that design to be very systemic and trying to enhance a number of different capitals in the community, so to speak. I'll use that framework because we can all kind of understand that. How you measure that can be complicated and challenging. And so when we were designing something pretty comprehensive like that, one of the first things I did was contact Neil and say, hey, what are some ideas on measurements, and used one of the guides she had published on measurement for community practices or community work, or
right.
But that laid it out very step by step, how to approach it, how to look at it, and I think those kind of things are extremely valuable.
Well, and Connie, I was just thinking that if I were in the field, the community development field, the nice thing about what Connie Loden does is that she's paying attention to what are the evidence-based practices. I mean, that gives you influence as well. You're not just out there suggesting good ideas, but you've got it grounded in kind of this network of folks that are doing research and doing evidence-based work, and you're able to speak to it in a way, I would think, that gives you additional credibility within kind of your professional field.
Well, that's true. Particularly dealing with foundations that are kind of the community or regional foundations. In them talking about and looking at doing a pretty substantial community change initiative, I could talk to them from a level of credibility that I don't really have the academic expertise, or the academic credentials, but definitely access to them, and they know the circle then of others that you gain information from and expertise from.
Yeah. That's my secret. I don't know a lot either, but I know some really good, really smart people to ask, and so I'll get back to you.
Yeah.
It does add to your credibility in the field, though.
It does. Yeah. It does, for sure. I mean, I can say Jim Cavey in Australia said.
They go, not that idiot.
So, Virginia, how has, I mean, maybe this is still in academia, but how is, as association membership, why is it important from your perspective?
Well, everything that's been said, I would definitely echo all of that. I mean, I think Connie just summed up a lot of things, but for me, it's about being exposed to others and fresh ideas that you can get inspired by, you can then apply to your work, or you can start to look at your work through a different lens or through a different perspective. We all get so kind of siloed in our environment, in our work, in our geography, and having those networks beyond that really kind of inspire what you're doing. I mean, that's really valuable to me. and to bring it back into the classroom as well, both practice and the classroom. So everything that's already been said, but that's something that I get a lot out of.
I think this is so important, and so with the youth or the young adults and the students, we've also tried to emphasize that CDS has a jobs network, that it's a place to go to find professional employment, that it's that kind of what you said, Connie, is that you're actually talking with folks that have developed some of these models or perspectives or published materials on how to frame or how to better understand community, and you can ask them firsthand, how does that work? But I don't know, it's still, and maybe this is back to what Michael was saying, sometimes it still feels like a sales job, and somehow I feel like we need to get beyond that. It's the same thing in fundraising. They say you're not fundraising, you're making friends, right? You're friend raising. But if you're doing it for the purpose of getting funds, it always feels a little artificial. And so it's that figuring out how do we reach out and embrace those new networks, invite people in, recognizing and or helping them recognize how this can support and help them professionally and personally. So.
Can I just add one little thing here?
Please.
I was just thinking about other associations I'm involved in, and one is just a massive one. It does the, accreditation and the testing and the, all those things. But anyway, they're a massive organization of about 40,000 people, and they have a very large number of participants from the younger generation students, recently graduated. And one of the reasons they do is that they both give money to support scholarships. They give scholarships every year, a pretty large number. But more than that, they have an incredible job fair. And I know we're probably too small to pull off something like that. But what we could perhaps do is have some sort of electronic kind of job board or something, or a resume where students and recent graduates or others could post their resumes. I don't know, something like that, because that's why they have just thousands of the younger members, is because of that. They want to get that first job or that first internship, and it's just they use it widely for that. And so I'm just wondering if on a smaller scale we could do something to that effect. And it's an idea that we talked about in the years past, is could we at least have a link or to a document or something that lists all the programs for grad schools or those offering online courses or whatever it may be for continuing type education, or if someone wants to go get a degree in community development, where would they go? And I don't think we have anything like that. Maybe we do and I just haven't seen it on the website, but just being able to think about, what do younger members want? They want jobs, they want connections with those jobs, and they want to be able to see where they could go and what that would look like, and what kind of schools could support, if someone's interested in, pursuing some more skill development.
I like that. Actually, we haven't really haven't investigated that fully. There's a jobs listing on the CDS website.
Oh, I didn't even know that. So I'm behind the time.
No, that's okay. I'm not sure a lot of people do, and that's part of our challenge, is that I'm not sure how much time people have spent, on the website or seeing some of the resources that are there. And if people don't know it's there, they also don't think of CDS as a place to go to post a position. So, so that I actually just within the last month here connected with the director, Justin, of CDS, and said, hey, I've got a post to share. How do I do this? And he said, just do it. Just go on, I think, and there's a spot. Or you can send it to him and he'll post it. But that's something that I think you're right. We need to highlight, and I don't think we've got a listing of places where you can get a degree or a higher degree. Virginia, do you know of a list of master's degree programs?
Well, I mean, part of the problem is some of these things don't already exist. So, no, as part of the the grant that I'm involved with Chris and Brian and UC Davis. That's one of our tasks with the grant, is surveying both master's and certificate programs of community development. So we will have a list shortly in the coming maybe 2 months to share. But we have found that those kind of easily accessible lists don't exist currently, at least for higher ed programs, kind of a one-stop shop. But we will be happy to, I believe, share what we're finding from our study.
Well, one of the ideas is that once that list exists, and I know there have been maybe a couple of versions of previous lists, but like you say, they may not be up to date or current or whatever. But even to reach out to that list and say, would you be interested in promoting or advertising or having your name listed on the Community Development Society website as an institution of higher learning where people can go to get a degree.
For sure.
Yeah, that could be good. Jim, do you have a master's degree program there?
Not at our university, and community development as a profession is not well developed here. So most people come to the profession from different areas, nursing, librarian, all kinds of other places. And there's very few specialist postgraduate programs in community development. There would only be a handful. And we generally do short courses. So there'll be like a 1 day, 2 day, 3 day short course that a certain organization might put on. So it's very hard to get a master's of community development. It really, there isn't the numbers here. And also we have a very British university system. So it's very much along the traditional lines of sociology or rural sociology, not an interdisciplinary approach like community development. It's one thing we want to do. We have an Institute for Resilient Regions, and we want to put in place professional development for practitioners around regional community development, but that's a work in progress.
Well, I know there's also the CDI, Community Development Institutes. I think there are 4 or 5 around the United States. They may want to, I don't know, promote or advertise through. Missouri has the community development academies that they do, but the community development institutes are more economic development certification type programs. But
we have IAP2 and all that kind of stuff. So, but we don't have enough fully accredited postgraduate programs in community development itself.
It's a great conversation because, again, I think it opens up some kind of creative thinking about how can professional development society like CDS provide more linkages and resources to help develop members. Rhonda, this kind of goes back to what you were saying: is where do you go to get your professional development?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I keep thinking about groups that do this, and I've always wondered why the Community Development Institute group is not more closely aligned with CDS. I think they were at one time, and they sort of went separate ways. But just sharing the members in that, I always thought, because I used to teach in some of those institutes, a while ago, that we give like automatic membership into CDS once they complete their week-long programs. And then we build our membership base dramatically that way. And I don't know what happened when I made that suggestion years ago. I don't know what happened to it, but it just seems like a logical transition that if you're interested enough in community development to go take a full, very intensive week-long training session and then maybe go back subsequent summers or other times to finish up the series, that you would want to be, a member of CDS. And so I don't know, sorry, my dog is sitting right here beside me, and she's loud and hungry. But anyway, so it just seems like a natural way to build up our membership base is every graduate of each of those institutes every year should be our members, at least for a trial,
I think that's a great idea, and I'm glad Michael's still on the phone, because CDS should have some representative in a formal way visit with the CDIs to talk about re-encouraging or re-fostering, rekindling that relationship, even just promoting for them, and hoping that throughout that process they also become aware of that there's a community development society. So, well, yeah, go ahead.
That might be something to present directly, to the board at one of our next board meetings, and just say, just to carry that thought over, and see how we could make some strides in doing that more effectively.
Make sure you give credit to the fellows.
Of course.
Yeah.
So it's my idea.
Yeah.
I thought of it.
No, Michael, I don't know that we have any silver bullets through our fellows program, but we've had some really good conversations throughout the year, focusing on some of these different aspects and elements of what does it mean to be a part of a community? What are those kind of foundational pieces of community? What does it mean to be a part of an association? And how do we do that? How do we foster those relationships? And it does generate, I think, some really good discussions. So, guys, it's about time here. So what else? I've got our next meeting. Let me say this before I go there. Is there anything else that anybody else wants to add on that conversation topic?
Can't think of anything.
This is a good conversation. Again, as always, I appreciate you guys' thoughts, insights, and just these kinds of conversations. I have our next meeting, fellows meeting, on the 25th of June at 4 p.m. same time. And unless I hear otherwise, I think that's where we're going to push. Does that work?
Okay. Well, yeah, I'll be in Africa on a research project, so I probably won't be able to dial in. But everyone have fun without me, and I'll see you at CDS in July.
Okay. Don't get out of your car to look at the cheetahs.
No, I'm definitely not. Oh.
Yeah, it's going to be a busy next month. But what we had agreed to do was to by July 1 try to have that 2-page summary ready to go that would highlight our different projects and also maybe some of the key lessons learned. Before that, I will send out the CD practice framework so that everybody has it and is kind of thinking about it. I don't expect that our papers will be ready to publish before the conference, but I think it'll be a good first step, and we'll have a solid draft, and we'll be able to maybe talk it through. Jim, are you coming to this conference? You going to make it back to Detroit?
It's a discussion that's in process at the moment.
Okay.
So I had a verbal approval from my eclectic sort of on the spectrum boss, and now he's going, oh, no, we have to build a strong business case for this and blah, blah, blah. So I'm running out of time, but I'm making sort of an argument to the head honcho at the moment. So I'd say there's a 80% chance of me being there.
I hope you can make it. I hope you can persuade him.
Yeah.
If you want us to call him.
It's a day-by-day proposition. Depends on, how he's going.
If you need us to arm twist or threaten his family or something, we'll do that. We're not above that.
Yeah. So. Well, no, I'm very confident, but we just need to just go through the process. Yeah.
Good. Okay. Yeah. So, anything else before we sign off from this meeting? Guys, I appreciate your time. I appreciate your investment. I appreciate your sharing and thought process as we go through this. It's made it, it continues to make it a rich process. And Michael, I'm glad you could join and listen in on this one. This one was a smaller group and a little less formal, but for the most part, I think you got a sense of kind of who we are and just what kinds of things we're pushing toward. So I'm glad you could join in.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure to sit in and to hear how your to get a good idea of how your conversations go and how you conduct business. And thank you again for giving me the opportunity to present the conversation on how we can build our membership. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
I think it's good, and we've got some networks. So let me follow up by saying this: that with the invitation to this Zoom meeting, you have the list of emails of all of our members for the Fellows Group, and if you could share the agenda for the workshop for the conference when it's ready, but also that promotional piece, if you can put it out on Constant Contact or whatever it is, and then once we have that, we can forward that onto our groups and promote CDS and the conference. So please use that if hopefully that's okay with everyone.
Right.
Good.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you all. Jim, have a wonderful morning. The rest of you have a wonderful evening.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, bye.
All right. Good to see you all. Thanks again.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.